Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Carpool. It's your host Connor. I'm joining you here on Tuesday following the weekend's final derby of the season against Rangers, in which I am going to talk about all the wee nooks and crannies and all the wee bits and bobs that you're surely going to want to hear my opinion of. Obviously, that's why you're sharing in. I'm only joking. But you're probably wondering where I've been. I've been very busy. So apologies for not being on much recently. Just there's been a lot going on, new contract at work, stuff like that. Lots and lots of hours have been dedicated to that, not so much to the show. And I do apologise for that. But if you could be so kind as to subscribe, hit that big subscribe button below in the YouTube channel. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can see the wee links down there below. Share the link with all your friends and family. Far and wide, they would do so. Appreciate it. I'd also like to say that we are sponsored by piesports.com, who are the sponsor for the episode today. If you go to the website piesports.com, use the code BUS1888 at the checkout, you'll get 12.5% off your order. It's right down there along the ticker tape. Have a wee look there. 12.5% off your order if you want to do that. And also, please don't forget that if you are so kind, you can become a Bhoycie Bus member for the low fee of $1.99 a month. You get wee extra stickers, wee extra things to put in the chat. Your comments get highlighted, stuff like that. So, and also helps us guys out a wee bit as well. So yeah, if you could do that, that would be much appreciated, guys. But so got my big notebook here. Got a Glasgow derby to talk about, the aftermath of which has been pretty disappointing. You know, usually you come on to the end of one of these and, you know, the talk is all about the controversy and bragging rights for each side, you know, and, you know, stuff that's inevitably going to make front page headline news and all the, you know, terrible tabloid journalism papers and stuff like that. And there's not really much to go on. It was a bit of a damp squib of a derby, you know, if I do say so myself. But I will go through it play by play and talk about some of the things that happened. So, you know, my opinions on some of the certain players and performances, things like that. And I will look at, you know, one incident that happened at Ibrox, which, you know, we're all too familiar with over the last few years, which I feel needs to be covered a lot more broadly and not kind of just like swept under the rug as it usually is. And I'll then look ahead to the game against Hibs this coming Saturday. So yeah, going into the game, we had 4 first team players out. That was Alistair Johnston, Nicholas Kuhn, obviously Jota, and Kasper Schmeichel, who we all know was out for a wee while. But you know, going into it, I had no real like aspirations of getting, you know, a really convincing result. You can go into it as confident as you want, but you're missing 4 first teamers. The bench is obviously much weaker than what it, you know, normally would be, and we're going into this off the back of losing the previous 2 derbies as well. So it's fair to say going into it, I did not have a lot of hope. My arse was making buttons for like, you know, a good while before it. You know, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't do it, and I was feeling sick all morning thinking about it. But at the end of the day, we go into the game kicks off, and talking about the first half was a real non-event. They hit the ball in the first 30 seconds. You know, my fears, I thought, were coming to be realised. I was thinking, oh, we're in for a bit of a doing here. But hope, like, thankfully, it kind of just eked out, you know, and that's obviously the title of the episode, that we eked out, you know, a result today, and it was just a very, you know, looking back on this a total non-event of a derby, and then, you know, a couple of years, no one's ever going to really remember this at all. You know, all we're going to think about is the fact that, you know, we're potentially won a treble that season. Dyson Maeda had the season of his life. Brendan Rodgers came back, secured, you know, more, you know, history. We went to 55. We became, you know, the most successful, most dominant force in Scottish football, and, you know, we you know, became ultimately, you know, the biggest, best team in the country, which we know we have been for for so long now, and get to rub our rivals' faces in it. But it kind of reminded me of, remember a couple of seasons back, January season, it was a really boring 1-1 draw with Rangers at the arse end of the season. I can't remember if that was his first season or was his second season. I think it was maybe, it was his first season. Things are still quite tight in the league. We were kind of happy to get a draw out of it, to be honest, at that time. But it was a real nothing to really write home about, nothing to really remember, to be honest. That is just what this derby reminded me of, was that game a few years back. The first half was just really, really scrappy. Not much was happening. They kind of had, I'd say, the upper hand for most of it, to be totally honest. And then I need to talk about him. Ademida in that first half was nothing short of indefensible. Now, obviously, I mentioned it before we signed Ademida permanently, I was all aboard the Ademida hype train. I loved him. I thought, when he was at Celtic, when he was on loan for Norwich, you could tell he was playing for a contract. He dug us out a massive, massive hole. When that dip in form came around about winter time, going at the tail end of the season, he won us the Scottish Cup against Rangers. He got us, that 3-3. Should have been 3-2, but that final goal, which got the 3-3 draw at Ibrox, which kind of just cemented us winning the league. Massive goals, massive performances, and he's had a lot of good performances this season, which I feel like went under the radar. And he's scored about, I think, 20 goals this season. He's had a lot of good contributions. He's scored important goals in Europe and the Champions League, stuff like that. But the performance he showed in the first half against Rangers was so off the mark. It is one of the worst performances I think I've seen from a forward against Rangers, in my life. It looked like he'd never played football before. It was genuinely baffling. I don't know if he'd been out at a Wonder Bar, the night before again, and was bouffing in taxis, because it was playing me a fucking hangover. It was genuinely. He's so lazy at times. He's so lazy, and folk used to take the piss at Dies and Maida's first touch. Ademida's got a first touch like a fucking woolly mammoth. Never mind a baby elephant like what Maida used to have. It's genuinely, it is baffling, and I don't know why. He's meant to be the target man. He's meant to be this focal point that we can put all of our attacks towards, and he drops back a lot, and I don't understand why he does it. He comes back to try and drop and like the plate and then proceed at the top. He's not quick enough, I don't think, to come back, like the plate, and then get back up to the position where he needs to be really effective. He should be the man where him and Maeda and these instances should be the guys where the ball's coming over the top and they're going to run onto it. And he should be pushing defenders out the way and running on, charging onto it, being 1-on-1. And it was 1-on-1 with the keeper in this first half. And he absolutely fucks it. I've never seen an attempted effort like that in my life, and we then go and concede 30 seconds later, thanks to his absolutely piss poor effort. And it's another list to add, to the charges against Ademida this season, where a lot of fans, and I was having these thoughts myself, are thinking is he good enough? A lot of people don't think he's good enough. We've wasted our money on him. We could have went and got somebody else for, that amount of money. He had a chance to put James Forrest in. James Forrest about to start, thanks to the absence of Nicholas Kuhn, who is looking to score for his 16th consecutive season. Celtic's most decorated player. He could have put him in. He just has to make a simple pass forward to James Forrest, who would then run at the ball and possibly be 1-on-1 with the keeper. And he can't even do that, and it is baffling at this point, And there's a lot of people who still pitchforks and torches try to defend him, saying, "Oh, you can't get him." Think about what he's given us. He's not even had that bad a season. That performance today, I think, could be the final nail in the coffin for a lot of people with Ademida. It was so so bad. It was so bad. And, like, he makes that mistake, fucks up. Rangers then come up the park and can see later. I'm going to talk about Liam Scales, who I think is now proven he should be nowhere near a starting position as centre back for Celtic. He gets muscled off the ball far too easily. I know he's came in the past few weeks and done okay and looked all right. That's against like the jobbers in the league. And I know he's before everybody goes, oh, but he got man of the match performances in Champions League games. I didn't give a fuck. I don't really care. He's proven it. He's proven that he's not up to the standard of being a starting centre back for Celtic. I'm more than happy to have him as backup. I'm really more than happy to have him as backup. But we've got a guy there in Austin Trusty who I think has been, battered from pillar to post by a lot of the support who we were going up against. Top scoring Serie A team Atalanta, who were still top scorers in Serie A at the time, who were flying in the league, who were unbeaten, in Europe at that point, and were doing very, very, very well. And we went to that game and we had to defend for our lives to get, the good draw that we got. And Austin Trusty was a massive part of that. I think he should have got man of the match. I've not seen a performance like what Trusty put in against Atalanta. Scales hasn't done that once for me, to be totally frank. He hasn't done that. He's so awkward on the ball. His balls, when he tries to play balls forward in that as well, it's almost laughable how poor his execution is. And it's so bizarre that we've rotated like 3 centre backs this season and can't find someone who's as good a partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers as what Carl Starfelt was. It makes you look back, and it does make you realise that the stick that Carl Starfelt got was only a symptom of how bad Shane Duffy was, and we thought he was, like a Swedish carbon, like an IKEA version of Shane Duffy, a Swedish carbon copy of Shane Duffy. When the truth of the fact of the matter is that Carl Starfelt is a miles better defender than the likes of probably Austin Trusty, Liam Scales, Mike Nawrocki, who was the other guy that we got, the Japanese guy, Kobayashi. All these centre backs have came in over the last few years, and Carl Starfelt stood head and shoulders above them if you look back at it. And the fact that he was met with such negativity during his time here, I think kind of reflects on how reactionary we all are, and that's really ironic coming from me because I am one of the most reactionary people you've probably ever seen on the show, and in my group chat and that as well. If we don't beat a batter a team 5-0, I'm like, I fucking shite, it's bish, but that's just me. But yeah, I think Scales, we need to kind of sort this issue now. I think from now to the end of the season, I would go back to playing Austin Trusty, to be totally frank, and keep Liam Scales as backup. Do you know what? I'd even put in Nawrocki. I'd even put Mike Nawrocki in. Granted, he's slow, but he's tidy on the ball, and he's physically very imposing as a centre back, and that's what you need. I know all this pet ball bullshit and the tiki taka and shit that the Rodgers kind of likes to play around, recycling the ball and all that. Centre backs need to be good with their feet. I just want a centre back who can defend properly and who doesn't get muscled off the ball easily. And that happens to Liam Scales a lot. That happens a lot. And it's not good enough. You've seen it please rewind back to the game against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. Liam Scales was fucking embarrassing. He literally killed the team. He was wandering in the middle of the fucking pitch, trying to win the ball back and play the ball quickly. When he was so far out of position, and he'll just let Dortmund just charge through and rip us to pieces. And he does it in the league as well. But granted, the players in the league aren't that good that they're going to get it off him and get ahead of him and make him look like a fool. Well, unless they're Rangers. It's really poor. And I don't. And by the thing I'm saying about Adamida and about Liam Scales, I don't. And things I say about Greg Taylor and that before. I don't dislike them as guys or really even as players. I loved Adamida, last season. I fucking loved him. And I was hoping when he came in this season, he was going to, take that first, play striking position off Kyogo. And, it's not panned out that way. Liam Scales, I was so happy when he got, he signed an extension in his contract because he was putting in performances, that kind of merited that. and they had a good loan spell at Aberdeen. But the fact of the matter is we're aiming to improve next season. Our rivals are going to get a hell of a lot of investment, whether you want to laugh at it, whether you don't want to, and they're going to go out and try and buy players who are going to try and win back the league title and take them to, a new state of being, or what the fuck they want to paint it as. We need to invest properly. We've had the best season we've ever had in Europe for a long, long time, in the past 10, 15 years or so. The best season we've had in Europe in a long time. We need to invest properly to get that. Guys like Liam Scales and Adi Vida ain't going to take us to another higher level, get us through knockout stage football in Europe in the Champions League. They're not going to do that, to be totally frank. And I need it to be, recognised that I think Celtic need to invest heavily this summer to plug the giant holes we do have in certain areas of the pitch, which just aren't, contributing enough. But enough about that. I'll move on to the second half. We move on to the second half. It's 1-0 to Rangers. And we come into the game, and we're actually, we're doing not bad. We're getting into the game a lot more. We're, try to impose ourselves on the game a lot more. It's much better, but, Ademida scores a brilliant goal. Now, I know it takes a massive deflection off the Rangers player right in the back of the net, but he absolutely rifles at a shot. He's got very, very good feet to, get that ball away and then get the shot off. That was going in no matter what. And, it takes that. VAR does whatever they can try and ever do, with guys like Andrew Dallas and that in there to try and chop it off, to give their beloved Rangers, a chance to win against Celtic again. But they can't do it. So the goal stands. It's good. And, the game then kind of just peters out a bit. We're trying, and then nothing really seems to come of it. And then what do you know? At the final minute, the final kick of the ball, the guy who could do no wrong this season, the guy who's just won Player of the Year last night, PFA Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, Fans Player of the Year, Dyson Maida, he has the chance to either shoot, pass the ball to Johnny Kenny, or lay the ball off because Yang is coming in at the back post. Trying to. He does none of them, and he just fucking fucks it up. He just does a massive. He tries to drag it around the keeper when all he has to do is just lay it off or just shoot. He could just take a shot. Everything's fell for him this season, and I feel like he maybe saw his name's in the stars for a minute there. More than it probably already has been this season, where he's like, "Oh, I could clinch this at the final minute, and if I do something, spectacular, like take it on a wee mazy run and just dink it right in the keeper and go right in and make him look an absolute fool, and do that, I'll absolutely break their hearts." At the end, he just, absolutely fumbles it. It is quite, looking back, it's a wee bit humorous. You're like, oh, there you are, Dyson. I forgot there's still a wee bit of the old you in there sometimes, isn't there? Because he's been so, transformative this season that he's, been absolutely head and shoulders above the rest of the league in terms of, the players. He's been absolutely excellent. But for it to be him in that final minute and for him to be the one that kind of, fucked it the last second for us to get the win, it's kind of bittersweet. It's kind of just like, maybe go down as one of those what if moments we look at, and when Phil and Liam and that probably do, like, future episodes looking back on previous seasons. But yeah, so the game finishes 1-1. We, came out to simply the best, and we had a bit of a laugh, and Rangers put out a shit tifo, and, at the end of the day, the spoils were shared, and, all it's done is kind of just confirm the fact that we are champions and we're the best team in the country, going into that game, against a horrible, toxic crowd at Ibrox, with so many first team players out, and still managed to get an okay result at the end of it. Kind of shows a bit of solidarity that the team has, and a little bit of fight. But I do want to talk about something that's a bit of a serious issue. It's something that we're all too familiar with. the scenes, Ibrox, and it's another bottle flung onto the pitch towards our players. I'm fucking disgusted. I'm frankly sick of it. This is nothing short of like, abhorrent behaviour, from the scum that support Rangers, and it's something that we're not surprised at in the least. You've seen the tifos they put out, we see the posts they put up, and the way that they behave in life, just in every day to day. When you see them in the street, seen the way they celebrated when they won the league. They literally destroyed the city and fought each other, and it was like bloody World War Z. And it's something that's been happening so recently. Multiple instances. Glass flung at Joe Hart, bottle flung at Matt O'Reilly, a bottle hitting a Celtic physio in the head, sending him to hospital where he had to get several stitches, which, nothing ever happened to it. There's been statements today saying the police are investigating it, and, they'll look into see what's happened. I'll tell you what will happen. The guy will get found out, he'll get banned, Rangers will potentially get a fine. You know what's going to happen next season when we play at Ibrox? It's going to happen again. There's going to be bottles flung on, coins, bottle openers, whatever. It's batteries. It's going to happen again. I can guarantee you. And it's probably never going to be stamped out because, it's just a reality of the society that we live in. We technically live in a Protestant country, and we are a team and a religion and are people who are against the establishment, and they fucking hate us for it. And let's be honest, a lot of the police, favour them as well. Let's not make no about it. The police are fucking scum. They treat football supporters, especially Celtic supporters in the country, like absolute animals. Carrall's last derby we played at Celtic Park stopped, I think, a couple of hundred Celtic fans from actually getting into the fucking stadium and seeing the game. Guys for the Green Brigade and that, getting corralled, getting crushed, stuff like that. Marks spoke about it when he goes to the games, having his wee daughter, we're almost in a crush because the police just, and the investigation's going to come to nothing for, the scum that's in their support, continually doing these actions that bring the game into disrepute, taint the derby, and and taint the game, and it's just absolutely fucking horrid. There was a Celtic fan got hit with a bottle, a few years back in the crowd when we had, like, what was it, 800 or something like that. There was a young boy who was walking up the street in his Celtic top, happened to be a Catholic, young Polish lad. A couple of Rangers supporting neighbours went and killed him. It was a story in the newspaper a few years ago. You can look it up. It's all there. It's all true. Lads getting jumped on the train because they happened to be Catholics wearing Celtic tops by those people. We have literally hate marches going through the streets throughout the summer for the orange walks and stuff like that, which should be banned. You couldn't walk through the streets with tricolours, singing IRA tunes, and wearing balaclavas and just saying, it's about our culture and that. No, you'd be fucking jailed. It's a real problem. You have to hold the microscope up to this section. Football culture, Scottish culture, and that, and it's really, really horrible. I've got Rangers supporting mates. One of my best mates is a Rangers supporter. And they take nothing to do with it, and it's and they even say the same thing, like it just brings the club into disrepute. They've got investors coming in in the next wee while who may not look too kindly on horrible banners and throwing objects at games, stuff like that, and racist chants and terrible songs and stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, these people are, they're not there to watch a game and cheer on their team. They're here because they hate the Fenians and they hate Catholics and they're brought up to hate. And that's all that their mind is thinking 24/7. It's sucking off, the royal family and hating Catholics, and that's all they're bred, and brought up to be. They went there with the full intention of doing that. They didn't just do it as a spur of the moment thing. They went and they're saying, I'm going to fling a bottle at that, Catholic cunt or whatever, was going through their mind at the time. Potentially, causing serious, life-altering injuries, career-ending injuries. You could potentially miss, hit a child, hit a vulnerable person. And it's just the lack of thought and the lack of, common human decency, which, is just kind of what happens when you step foot in Ibrox. It's it's nothing what you'll be surprised by. It's the culture that that club and that fan base endorses. Is just nothing but pure hatred and pure venom. That drips from them. Every single minute, every single day. You see it online, point scoring about horrific things about child abuse and things like that. Which people all want justice for the victims, but they use it as a point scoring mechanic. It's just it's just horrible, and they're a horrible, rancid fucking club with shocking values which have no place in the 21st century. But yet they're propped up and put on a pedestal by the media. It's got for years as Scotland's premier club, but you know what? The rebels have won. We've overtook them. We're better than them in every single conceivable fucking measure. And we always will be. Now until the end of time. Mark my words. It'll be a long day in hell, cold day in hell, before Rangers overtake us again. And I can guarantee you that. We are in such a higher plane of existence than them now. That doesn't matter how many dodgy fucking Yankee Danky Doodle investors come in and pump you full of cash to make you a feeder club for Leeds. You will never be on the same level as us. Never again. Celtic are Scotland's most successful football club, the world's most successful football club. 55 titles in the bag. Fucking hallelujah. It's done. But yeah. So enough of that. Looking ahead to this weekend's game against Hibs. I think, you may call for, a lot of rotation, a lot of change. Some players to be dropped. Had to be that. Liam Scales. But yeah, you can rotate a wee bit, but I do think we still need to try and really go ahead and, put our foot down and just, like Roger said, we don't want to, just squeak over the finish line. We want to sprint across it. And, the way to do that is by still maintaining the level of performances that we have all season and getting maximum points from the remaining games we do have left, and then going into that Scottish Cup final on a high. We don't want to go into that Scottish Cup final, rotating the squad heavily. Granted, a lot of players deserve rest, but heavily rotating the squad, getting a couple of losses, a couple of draws, and, nothing really exciting to talk about. You want to go into, the next few games, Trophy Day and, the Cup final, on a massive high, a massive confidence boost. And I do think we have the opportunity to do that against Hibs this weekend. Granted, they have been on excellent form this season. David Gray, I think, potentially robbed the manager of the season. I know it went to John McGlynn at Falkirk. Very impressive job he's done. But David Gray taking that Hibs team who looked like they were destined to stay in the relegation spot and go unbeaten up until very recently, from September. I think we were the last team to beat them, back then before Aberdeen beat them recently, is incredibly, impressive. And I do think that David Gray, probably out of everybody, even if Rodgers won the treble, to be totally honest, deserved that manager the season shout, because he took a team and totally transformed it, changed it, and guys who I think are absolute fucking muppets like Rocky Bashiri and that turned him into one of Hibs' most consistent performers, keeping things tight up the back, and guys like Martin Boyle come into good form and stuff like that. Joe Newell and Chris Cadden, guys like that. So this weekend, I do think we have the opportunity to, not get a bit of revenge, but kind of put a bit of a stamp of authority, and just say, by the way, I know we've drew with Rangers, it would not look our best, but stamp a bit of authority back in the league, saying we are the fucking big boys, we are here to continue the dominance right up to the end of the season. You don't get a moment to breathe until the final whistle was blown on the season. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want the attitude and the application to be going into these last few games. So yeah, if you want to ask me for a prediction, I think I'm going to say 4-1 Celtic. Don't know who will score because I don't actually know who's going to start up top and who's going to start where, because likely there will be some rotations done to the team. But guys, that has been another episode of the Carpool, done and dusted. I hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget, guys, down below, code BUS1888 at piesports.com, 12.5% off your order. Follow Bhoycie Bus on Twitter, go on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it far and wide, comment your thoughts, and also become a Bhoycie Bus member for $1.99 a month if you are so inclined. Whatever support you guys do give, we do appreciate it. I've had a great time coming back, discussing, the derby there, and, getting a lot of my frustrations and thoughts and opinions out there into the ether of the internet. But yeah, it's been great, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. I'll see you when I see you. I'm not going to commit to a day and commit to a week and all the rest of it, because you know what I'm like. But where I'm next around, I hope you do enjoy, and I hope you're going to be there supporting us as always. But anyway, guys, good night. Have a good one. Bye bye.